trying to wrap a couple other things up. And we are here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and of course, our opinions. And holding it all together to make sure that we are available to you every morning, that we can come live, whether we're on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, even if we're on Alexa, making sure that we're on the air or available on the app, or you can find us on the internet, is Kawesa. Kawesa, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I am okay. We're just pressing our way this morning,
Yes,
pressing our way.
Yeah.
How was your ride in?
It wasn't bad. It is muggy outside. It's not pleasant out there, but it's not raining, so that's a plus, right? Positive. And then also, the traffic wasn't too bad either. So the traffic wasn't bad. I made my way through, and it was pretty easy, so not too bad on my end.
Awesome. This is one of those days where you just expect your hair to get frizzed out. Is that right?
Well, my hair is already big, so I don't even worry about that anymore.
Right. So it's muggy, but the traffic wasn't bad, and it's gonna be warm today too. It's gonna be pretty. The temperature's gonna be up there, so y'all get ready. Bring plenty of water. There he is.
There he is. Okay, I had to unmute you a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, so let me tell you what was funny is, I forgot the camera was on, trying to, I'm at a conference, so I'm trying to like multitask and what have you.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize that Skype turned on the microphone from my headset versus my actual microphone that I use for the show. So I saw Kuwait, I'm like, why'd you have to mute me? I muted it. I'm like, oh crap. Like, well, I guess you all just heard a lot about the making of an AME documentary.
I tried to overtalk you, so that was...
Yeah, and I just muted you, so you're good. I was trying to protect the privacy. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that, Quasa. That's awesome.
What did you hear?
We didn't hear much of anything. No, it was fine.
No, I mean, really, did you get a part of it? Because it's going to be an exciting documentary.
Well, tell us about it. So, now that you've kind of exposed it, you should just tell us about it.
Well, so I've done a number of them. As the producer and director for the AME Church, this one is the third installment, AME Next. They come out every 4 years. And so the question is, what's next for the AME Church? Bishop Vashti McKenzie actually was like her brainchild, and the Council of Bishops are the folk who are behind it. But it's a really interesting project. So we interviewed, maybe 60 to 80 AMEs in LA, Atlanta. We went to Cape Town at 3 big AME events over the last 3 years. And with the open-ended question, what do you see next for the AME Church?
All right.
And it's going to really be powerful when you get into just kind of what people are, envisioning. I think we're going to have to do a whole special one just on what happened during COVID, because all these interviews happened prior to that. And so what's next is absolutely changed as a result of the last year for, not just AME churches, but everybody. So anyway, so we were kind of wrapping up and cleaning up some stuff that we have to present later today. So, Power Hour, you get the advance.
You were up early in the morning working on this. I just want to note that. And you and Bishop McKenzie were both up very early trying to handle business.
6:10 at an AME meeting is late.
Is that late?
Bro, that's by 6:10, breakfasts have already started all around the place. You have to get up at 4 a.m. at an AME meeting to say.
Don't they go all night, though? Don't they go like 10 or 11
o'clock? Yeah, you don't go to sleep till 12 or 1.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, African Methodism coursing through our blood.
I hear you. I appreciate that. That's deep. Thanks. I'll stick with the UCC. Actually, I can't really say anything. When I was at the United Church of Christ, I used to be a delegate to the General Synod. We used to have our early morning meetings prior to Synod before voting at 5 o'clock in the morning. We would go together. Mm-hmm. We had a big suite. Everybody, 50 delegates would meet together, and we'd be meeting at 5 o'clock in the morning. And it used to really drive me crazy.
Oh,
so
wow.
I get it.
Wow.
I get it.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It is what it is.
Well, speaking of the AME Church, we also made some other news yesterday.
Oh, Lord.
So this is this is our worldwide gathering, our worldwide meeting. And so, some people have probably been following what's going on social media. And, sometimes news outlets don't always really get the right story. And that's a part of it. News outlets did not quite fully report accurately what happened on yesterday. But, I think for the most part, they got the gist of it, which is that there's been an effort to overturn some of the language that's in our book of discipline related to same gender loving people and services. We don't really have a very clear statement to begin with. It's kind of clunky and came about around 2004 as a result of, I think, what the Episcopal Church did at that time in allowing for clergy to preside over marriage ceremonies. Mm-hmm. It was an attempt to remove that language in a not so well written bill. I think everybody agrees with that, supporters and detractors. But typically what happens in our process is, a bill comes like in city council. The first reading is you read the title. Second reading, you read the bill. Third reading, you have debate on it. And on the second reading, where we were just supposed to just hear the actual language, and then there were people who were in the queue to make some amendments to it to kind of fix some of the problems. Before you knew it, the bill was defeated before it even got to a full second reading, let alone a third. Wow. And people didn't know what they were voting on. A lot of people were kind of unclear and discovered once they voted, that was it. And now you cannot even debate it. Now let's move on. Obviously, that didn't sit well with, black folk who've been in the street. This is a black denomination. Folk who've been in the streets for the last year and a half, protesting, demonstrating. And this is a conversation in the black church that, like in the black family, one that historically has been, we don't talk about this. Right. We don't talk about gender issues. And we just act like that's auntie. That's,
and her friend.
And her friend.
Her roommate.
That's the black way of handling things that we don't want to talk about. Right. But you and I know from being in the streets of younger folk today that that's not acceptable anymore for them, and rightfully so. And so it just really exploded yesterday. I mean, there was a lot of hurt from folk on, I think, especially on folk who are, supportive of queer rights and, queer folk within the AME church. And I was on a Facebook Live last night. If you want to see my thoughts with the Christian Recorder, go to my page at Mark Kelly Tyler. You can see it there. But I got to tell you, man, it's something that's going to come back today, obviously, in some fashion, because young folk are already talking about, what can we do? And we want people to stand and support us. Wow.
That's a really powerful move on their part, and much applause to them. I don't want to say predecessor denomination. It's not really a predecessor denomination, but the United Methodist Church is going to be meeting later this summer, and they're probably going to split over the same issue. And they're going to generate new conferences and a new denomination as a result of that. But, I mean, this is an issue, and I'm actually kind of glad we're talking about this, right? Because, I'm, as a clergy leader, I've been a part of the United Church of Christ since the early 2000s and have, led one of the first African-American open and affirming congregations here in the city of Philadelphia. And we have to make room for our siblings, our children, our mothers and our fathers who are LGBTQIA, that's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex, and allies. We have to create space for them within the church. And I know, there's always going to be this group of people going to be like, that's not what the Bible says. Actually, most of y'all have never really read the Bible in the original languages. You don't really understand the context of a lot of it. And a lot of times we spend time proof texting things that are not helpful because the same proof text that we would use to try to hurt and hinder same gender loving people is the same way that people try to proof text the Bible to keep us in slavery, to keep women out of leadership roles, and to keep people oppressed all across the world. And so I'm hoping and praying for the AME Church today. Just let you know, I just want to say that to you. I'm praying because I think the whole of the black family needs a spiritual place to call home. and to be able to find solace, to find peace with God, and to be able to have their spirits nurtured. So, praying for y'all while you're on conference this summer, and I will do likewise for the CME, the AME Zion Church, many of our Baptist denominations, Church of God in Christ, and others that are similarly having conversations around the country and around the world.
Yeah, well, I'm certain that a lot of folk appreciate your comments and your support, and like you and I mean just a ton of my allies and folk that we work with, from UCC, Baptist, other folk who who are like where you are as well, where I am, on this particular issue, is they were reaching out immediately. I mean, because my first post was a little cryptic because it's other stuff that's like it's a big church meeting, so stuff gets on your nerves, right? And so it's just like I hate when we do this, hate we do that, but then this just it was the icing on the cake, and it just kind of came out before I even did the Facebook Live. Folk were kind of checking in, and then afterwards, again, but knowing that you have support outside of the denomination and folk who are there with you. And it's also a reminder. I mean, look, the way that people were like hitting me up, it's like sometimes, some of this is generational. By virtue of the way in which, leadership happens and occurs, like you're not going to get elected bishop in your 20s and 30s. And you're not going to become a general officer in your 20s and 30s for the most part. So it's not surprising that our denomination, our official leaders are older, right? And skew older. So nobody should be surprised by that. And as a result, sometimes don't always fully appreciate how things have changed, even communication. Look, when the religion news service put the story out, I'm getting messages like, "What did you all do?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Oh God, it's online." Everybody's like, "The AME Church, denounces," and it's all this stuff, and it's like that's not even what happened. But again, and so trying to say to folk, I know you think this is one of those conversations we can just like put a lid on and move on, but I'm sorry, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. You can't just do that anymore. So what happens in a meeting? You can be in a meeting literally with I co-moderated a candidates forum yesterday, right? For some of the people who were running for general office. And by the time it was over, there may have been like 20 people left in the room. But dude, I'm getting like dozens of messages from people because people are watching it live.
That's right.
So,
I actually had the chance. I was up in the middle of the night. Of course, this is very early in the morning, but and I was going through my Facebook feed, and I discovered quickly of the people that were following me, like who are AMEs, because there was an ongoing commentary on Facebook about everything that was happening, and it was like whoa.
So let me say this one last thing before we get ready to go to break. And by the way, Stephanie Gorillas, who is a great journalist, but also I believe she's Haitian born. I know her family's in Haiti, is going to call in on the next segment to talk about what's going on there. But let me just say, I talked to some younger folk who were saying, well, you all should do this, you should do that because, blah, blah. I said, well, look, I'm with you there, but you don't need to wait for me. You can lead this. Well, no, I'm not a leader. I don't have any power. I don't have any position. I'm like, wait. Do you believe what you preach or not? I said, first of all, do you understand the nature of power itself? There's institutional power that is granted to you and given to you, and then there is just power. When we started Power the Organization, you know that Mother Bethel may have been the most recognizable church.
Absolutely.
And that was it. Well, and Congregation Road at Shalom and Arch Street.
Yep.
Other than that, and maybe some of the Catholic churches, but man, most of the churches and synagogues and masjids, nobody even knew in the sense of City Hall. But what gave us power is that we organized.
That's right.
And they have not been able to break that organization. They can't figure it out to begin with. Who's the leader? We all lead. No. Who can I cut a deal with? Remember that you've had those conversations.
I remember very clearly.
If you co-opt me, the group will sense it and they will turn on me. And so when you organize, when you stay together, when you fight together, you have power. You don't have to wait till you become a bishop. You don't have to wait till you become a president. You don't have to wait till you become a member of city council in Philadelphia. If you organize, if you stay together, you can move mountains.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we probably need to go to break.
Yeah, because Quace is going to organize on us and mute me again. 6:22 in the morning. Welcome to the Power Hour. Hit the share button. And again, we're waiting for Stephanie Gorillas to come on so that we can have an important conversation about events that are roiling one of our sister nations and our distant relatives as well in Haiti. We'll be right back.
If you or a loved one is searching for a home care agency that provides care both needed and deserved, call My Independence at Home at 215-921-2277. Featured in Oprah Magazine, My Independence at Home is committed to quality, compassionate home care for the elderly and adults with both physical and intellectual developmental disabilities. Call 215-921-2277 today for a free in-home consultation or visit us on the web at MYIA.org.
Stage Door, focusing on arts and culture in and around Philadelphia. Hosted by Tiffany Bacon and co-moderated by Jeffrey Page of the Philadelphia Theater Company. Part of The Source, Fridays at noon, exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on WURDradio.com, the WURD Radio app, or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. Sponsored by New Voices sponsor Comcast, NBC Universal, and Pico. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of those. We're going to be joined back by Dr. Tyler in just a few minutes, and we're waiting for a guest to call in who's going to address some of the issues that have been happening in Haiti.
I'm here.
Oh, you're not on screen. I don't know what.
Yeah, because I hit the camera, but I'm
Okay.
sorry, man. I told you, just like a mess this morning.
Just
a mess.
That AME convention is jamming you up, brother.
Yeah, I like literally just looked and realized I didn't even charge my phone last night.
That's all right.
It's that part of the meeting.
Well, look, I know we're going to be talking about Haiti in a moment, but I also just want to acknowledge that South Africa is teaching us how to get it done. So yesterday, and hopefully we might have a guest on tomorrow about this, but yesterday, former President Jacob Zuma turned himself in and is starting to serve a 15-month sentence for contempt of court in South Africa. He was in the KwaZulu-Natal region, and he turned himself in. He's been under charges of corruption and fraud for his time in the presidency of South Africa. He is the third president post-apartheid. There was President Nelson Mandela, President Thabo Mbeki, and then President Jacob Zuma. And some things really kind of did not go well during his term and his tenure. But he is now in jail for the next 15 months. Department of Justice. Let me be clear. South Africa is teaching us how to lock up a president, or a former president for that matter. Study what they did, and then go after the last guy.
Well, and it's interesting, so that's so deep. Because Zuma, first of all, he's 79 years old.
I know, 79. He's got a 15-month sentence. This is just for contempt of court. It's not. They haven't even finished the trial yet. This is just contempt of court.
Wow. So they may find him guilty and then keep him there.
Yes. He might wind up being there for the rest of his life.
Man, they don't play.
And they did contempt of court, and it was just a preliminary hearing or something. It was an early on hearing that he didn't show up for, and so they gave him 72 hours to report. He didn't report, and they sent the police after him, and they turned him in, and he's starting a 15-month sentence. So
yikes.
I'm saying Donald Trump did a lot worse.
Well, yeah, he's out there still doing stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And thinking about running for president again. I'm like, come on, y'all. Can somebody, Cyrus Vance up in New York, man, what's the problem? You're moving kind of slow. And you're getting ready to leave, man. Just do the do. Do the do.
Well, I agree with you. Absolutely. But, this is, first of all, this has got to be deeply disappointing. Zuma's tenure, the fact that he was forced out of office by his own party, the ANC.
The ANC, yeah.
I mean, the ANC, the African National Congress, that was, I mean, bro, that was like the SELC and NAACP on steroids.
Absolutely.
Like they shut it down.
But they took it to another level though, right? Because they were prepared for armed resistance too. That was a whole other thing. Yeah.
Well, but again, they were the majority in their country as well.
That's right. Absolutely.
I mean, so you're dealing with a minority that's keeping control of you. It is, and I've repeatedly said that even about this country, it's like it is a different dynamic. So you have to understand that. And so, but the ANC has the fact that they rode the wave into power because they were about reform. They could have done like a lot of groups, which is once they get power and then just kind of just roll into corruption and just stay there. But they forced him out. Look, the fact that he's in jail, the ANC still runs the government.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
So they put him in jail. ANC, people who come through the ANC. I just think that is very profound, and one that is important to remember, that you don't stray away from your liberation roots, right?
Right.
And I mean, and so let's go back to the conversation we had about the AME now, not the ANC, but the AME church, which is that's kind of the point about this conversation around gender equality, right? Mm-hmm. Is that, on the one hand, we are always touting that we are the liberation church. Mm-hmm. The Church of Richard Allen, the church that has opened its doors for the civil rights movement. Brown Chapel, AME, and Selma was the gathering place for Dr. King. Mm-hmm. When he went to Memphis, the night that he was killed, though he spoke at Mason Temple Kojic Church, all of those big meetings were at Claiborne Temple. The march that day he led started and ended at Claiborne Temple AME Church. Like everywhere, even in South Africa, AME churches opened themselves up. And so people on the outside find it hard to kind of struggle with the inconsistency that we would then be the same church on this issue to sound like the Southern Baptist Church.
Right.
And I'm looking at the comments in social media, and I see you, Raphael. I understand what you're trying to say, but let me just simply say that, biblical interpretation, there's not one person in the world, I don't care what anybody tells you about, that I'm a Bible believing, I only preach the Bible. You cannot find one person in the world who truly practices that.
Absolutely.
There's no way, because there are inconsistencies built into it. Mm-hmm. And so the idea, so everyone picks and chooses what they support and what they don't. They cherry pick from the text. I'm telling you, because this is what I do for a living. Bishop Royster preaches for a living. We know this. And so the same people who tell you that this is incompatible are the same folk who also say women should not preach because the Bible says so. And then when you get to that same black person and say, well, it also says slaves be obedient to their master. Should we go back to the plantation? Was Nat Turner wrong? Was Denmark Vesey wrong? Was Harriet Tubman wrong? Was Frederick Douglass wrong? Well, Doc, you got to understand, you got to take Paul in his context and for his times. Whoa. If we're going to take Paul in his times for slavery and his teaching in Philemon, then we got to take Paul in his context with women and gender and pretty much everything else. Do we not?
That's right. I mean, Tawanda just said she had shrimp last night, so I just want to, because, shellfish and everything like that, that was carrying. And I think Stephanie's on now too, so we should probably go to that.
So, all right. Well, again, bro, I just want to just simply say that, it's frustrating when people try to use the Bible to masquerade what is obviously just a personal decision. that I don't like. I don't like that, and so I'm going to find a biblical text to hide behind, because again, your biblical interpretation, your hermeneutic, is not consistent, as my good friend Dr. Jennifer Leith said last night.
Go ahead.
Not one person that I know is going to do exactly everything there, because you can't.
Absolutely.
Oh, Robert Garland had on mixed fabrics yesterday, you sinner.
Stephanie's online.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. Just want to wrap that up. But so, if we got time with Stephanie, so I'm glad that she's on. And we wanted to talk to someone who had some deep roots and deep understanding into Haiti itself, because, it's hard to get the truth out of moments like this simply listening to, I don't know, the big cable networks, because they kind of take our stories and do an injustice. And so Stephanie is a great journalist. We met some years ago. We first got to Philadelphia, but she is also of Haitian descent, and wanted to get her on. Stephanie Gorillas, welcome this morning to the Power Hour with Bishop Dwayne Royster and myself. Glad to have you on today.
Good morning, everybody. And I just wanted to say that I did enjoy the conversation that you two were having.
Well, jump on in.
And I just agree with you were saying that, especially for me, somebody's been struggling with my anger for the past month. And I had to say, God, thank you for covering me from me. You could read the Bible, you can study the Bible, but you were made of human flesh ultimately. And the thing is that we are very inconsistent. And because we are made in his image, but we are not him. And so we're going to fall. And I know that, so I what you were saying really, I really felt that.
Well, hey, we appreciate that, Stephanie, and listen, I'm so glad that you're on. First of all, so I didn't get a chance last night because so many things were happening. But update us. What are you doing now? First of all, so we know exactly where you are, and let folk know what you've done in the past that gives you the ability to speak on this.
Yes, I am currently living in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a multimedia journalist. I'm working for the Griot. I'm a senior editor and staff editor. The thing is that I'm one of the first generation members of my family to be born in the United States. In 1982, President Jimmy Carter gave my mother a visa, and she was able to come here, and Ronald Reagan signed off on here. So I often see myself kind of like a parallel universe. If things had gone a little bit differently, I would have gone up in Haiti. And so I always keep that in the back of my mind.
Wow. So obviously you still have, I'm sure you have a lot of family that are still there in relationships. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. I have family in Port-au-Prince. I have family in Okai. My family's still pretty much there, and they're taking in what's happening.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, look, yesterday the story broke literally as we were in the last 5 minutes of our show. And so we were kind of, just stunned and devastated by the fact that a president would be killed at his home and his wife shot. Assassinations, they unfortunately happen all the time, but this seemed to be over the top as far as even assassinations go. So can you just kind of help us unpack that, first of all, and how the country itself is gripping with just the incident itself?
I know that he has not been a very popular figure. He went into office without a mandate. Under his rule, prices went up. People weren't able to send things to Haiti that people need. He dismantled the Senate, the parliament. And so people thought, when your time is up, you have to leave office. You must leave office. The whole January 6th insurrection, where former President Trump wanted to be like, well, I'm going to challenge this election. That's what Maurice did. He said, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. And there have been protests and outrage. And when I woke up yesterday and I found that, I was shocked. I was shocked, but ultimately not surprised. And I know that's a very horrible thing to say, but it's just the fact that the situation is getting so untenable. And for me, if a president is assassinated, and his wife is also injured as well, it seems like an inside job to me. I don't have any insider info, but you don't get that close to a president to assassinate him. this was very targeted. This was not just, people coming in from the street and trying to get closer, because this is a breakdown of security, purposeful breakdown of security, in my opinion. And for the people of Haiti, I keep going back to Trump. People were happy that, Trump is no longer in office. And what I'm afraid of is what fills the gap for Moise. We have the acting prime minister who's now serving as the president of Haiti, but who fills the vacuum? What comes next after Haiti? Because they're saying that we want the United Nations to come into Haiti. My thing is, give us the resources that we need and leave. For over 200 years, Haiti has been demanding our independence. We fought for our independence. We do not want third or second party rule. We want to rule ourselves, but yet you keep coming to Haiti for occupation. We do not want that. Let us rebuild our country. It is more than past time. Haiti should not be one of the few countries that does not have running water, that does not have electricity. It's embarrassing, the state that we are in, to have people call my mother's country, my homeland, my ancestry, the poorest nation in the Caribbean, in the world. It should not still be that way in 2021.
Let me ask you this question. One of the things that came out in some of the articles, well, two things. One, first was that when the president should have left office, the Americans, the United States, actually backed him staying in office. That was one issue. The second issue is that supposedly, because they have killed 4 of the quote-unquote assassins and have captured 2 at this point, that they said that they were able to get into the presidential palace using DEA, the United States DEA badges and so forth. But also that there was heard that the folk that were the assassins were speaking Spanish. Do you know? I mean, one, about the whole fact that the United States was basically propping up a president in a country that wasn't legitimately in office anymore. And then 2, about the potential of the assassins themselves to be trying to represent the United States DEA agents.
As I said before, it's the fact that, Haiti's been asking for our independence for over 200 years. And the fact that the U.S. would seemingly come in and back Moise, that made a lot of people angry. It made it seem as though he's a puppet of the United States. They kept saying over and over, he's an installed puppet. We do not see you as legitimate. The thing is that we have our own elections. We can pick our own leaders. I can't go to Russia, to the United Kingdom, and say, you know what, Boris Johnson, I really don't like you. You must go. That is for the people of the United Kingdom to decide. It is up for people of Haiti, Haitians, to decide who their leader is. After the assassination attempt, people must know that the Dominican Republic and Haiti share the same border. So it is not surprising or uncommon that Haitians would be able to speak fluid Spanish. My grandfather spoke fluid Spanish. My grandfather was born in Cuba, but Batista told all the Haitians to go back, and that's how my grandfather returned to Haiti. But Haitians speak very fluent Spanish, so it's not surprising. I just think it's a little bit too, I read that it was coordinated. And so if you're trying to throw somebody off the set, well, let me speak Spanish, let me say I'm a DEA agent. It just seems too coordinated that you went in there for an intent purpose, and that was to assassinate the president of Haiti, and you accomplished that goal. How do you do that? There has to be a breakdown in security some purpose.
Yeah. So Stephanie, we got to take a quick commercial break. I hope that you can hang on with us for a few minutes. We're talking to Stephanie Gorillas, who is the first American-born member of her Haitian family, and she's also a senior editor at The Griot and a good friend of ours and no stranger to Philadelphia. We'll be right back on the other side of the Power Hour, unpacking what happened in Haiti on yesterday. Don't go anywhere. Hit the share button.
Between family dinners, bedtime stories, and study sessions, Pico knows that life never stops moving. So if you need help paying your energy bills, there are financial programs available, like the Customer Assistance Program, or CAP, that offers a monthly credit that can lower your gas and electricity payments. Learn how Pico can help keep your life moving with CAP. See if you qualify at pico.com/CAP.
Tune in this Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. for the Islam Today show with a perspective on moral guidance and Islamic principles and values.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD. Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Seeing those delays starting to build up, this traffic report sponsored by America's Best Contacts and Eyeglasses. Looks like minor delays now on southbound 95 through the construction, Cottman to Bridge Street, where you are down to 3 lanes. West on the Schuylkill, slowing Broad to Passyunk. That's down to 1 lane with construction. Accident on the 42 freeway northbound as you approach 41. It's backed up from the Black Horse Pike on up. Lower State Road, that is between Horsham and Warrington. It's shut down with a down pole from an accident. It's between County Line Road and Street Road.
Don't overpay for glasses. Get 2 pairs and a free exam for just $69.95. The exam alone is worth $50. That's not just a better deal. It's America's Best. Book your exam online today.
In certain states, eye exams provided by independent optometrists or ophthalmologists. See store for details.
For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. I'm Jenny Robinson with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a WURD weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Increasing clouds this morning and a chance of a shower or thunderstorm. 87 at lunchtime. Showers and thunderstorms likely later this afternoon, a high of 88. Tonight, all eyes on Tropical Storm Elsa heading toward our area and right on through with heavy rainfall, a flash flood threat with 2 to 4 inches of rain possible. Gusty winds as well could reach inland. The temperatures will drop into the low 70s. Tomorrow, Elsa pulls away quickly from our area, but another threat in the afternoon. Showers and thunderstorms could be strong, a high of 87. Then sunshine for Saturday, a nicer day with less humid conditions and a high of 85. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster and Mark Kelly Tyler. We're actually in conversation with Stephanie Grillis, who is the senior editor and staff writer at The Griot, having conversations about what has been happening with the assassination of the president in Haiti. Stephanie, thanks for being back here with us and hanging on for a little bit.
No problem. Also, I want to extend my deepest thoughts to First Lady Martine Moïse. I realize I didn't say that before. I wish her a very full recovery. I hope that she's able to recover. I know that yesterday they were prematurely speaking on her death. I don't like to speak death over people, and so I wish the power of God to restore her back to full health.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I understand tragically that their children were in the house as well. So certainly we want to be praying for the kids. This has got to be very traumatic for them too. So, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, I wanted to ask you, so when you say the Americans, if people felt like the Americans propped them up, so we're basically talking about the Trump administration at that point, right?
Yes, and I believe so. I don't want to speak about the Biden administration, because I would have to double check into that. It's just the fact that any perceived interference by a third party, and because the U.S. has such a long occupation in the United States, let's not forget about the first George Bush, the first George Bush. And I've been to Haiti, and one thing that I don't really like is the fact that whenever anything happens to Haiti, the Clintons come up. Like, it's just a bizarre conspiracy theory about trafficking, about the Clinton Foundation. Our president, Haiti's president, was just assassinated, and many conservatives were like, the Clintons did it. Can you guys just please stop? Haiti is grappling with something very serious and very real. Whatever issues the Clintons may have, please don't interject the Clinton nonsense into this tragedy at this particular moment. Haiti is now without a president. And you can say that Haiti has been without a duly elected president for the past year, but he was just assassinated, and your first thought is to bring up this Clinton nonsense. Okay, just stop it, okay? Haiti now has to find a way forward. That's what we're trying to do, and it's very difficult to do that would you want to, like, put something in the conversation that has no reason to be there? Going back to your other question, Haitians, for the most part, are very wary of United States interference and their presence. We just side-eye them, especially after the earthquake. Everybody promised us everything. It's more than 10 years later. I promise if you go to Haiti, in many areas, it still looks very ravaged. And this is 10 years later. My cousin lost her leg in the earthquake. And 10 years later, Haiti, many parts of Haiti still look safe. They fixed up the airport, but when you sort of like going to like a lot of American cities, there's one part of the city that looks nice. Go a couple of blocks further, you'll see the true picture, how many people are living. That's Haiti.
Wow. So, I mean, I'm just, you know, this is, unfortunately for, you know, many black folk in America, I think, and it's sad because it's even getting worse with this new ADOS conversation. You know, what is it? African
descendants of slavery. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah. So the acronym always kind of gets me tripped up. And I mean, I get it, but I'm like, didn't we literally there wasn't like a boat that like came from like one part of Africa and just went to Haiti and stopped. And all of a sudden, we have no relationship with them. I mean, we're literally all together in the same boat, the same Middle Passage.
That's right.
And it's like the only time as Black Americans we seem to care is if there's an earthquake, if there's, you know, a hurricane. Unfortunately today, if there's an assassination. I mean, I feel some kind of way about myself, the fact that I was not even following the story of the president basically being like this, I don't know, almost like imitating Donald Trump in some ways over the last year. That's something I should have known. So, I mean, but you grew up here, your family is from there. How do you wrestle with that?
It's very difficult because over the past year, you know, I'm a reporter, and sometimes I'm in the street, and there's a protest happening. They're saying Maurice must go, Maurice must go, because the anger is visceral on both sides. Because as the prices were going up in Haiti, people who are here in America feel that they've kind of made it a little bit. They want to be able to give back to their families. That was more difficult under his reign. And so people are saying he must go, he must go. And so I don't want to say that they were happy that he was assassinated, but there's a bit of indifference. It was said that one person was saying, Jay-Z, that means Lord. Yes, you know, the dictator is gone. But the thing is that, yes, he's gone, but you always have to be afraid of what takes his place.
Absolutely.
That is my fear. The thing is that you can get rid of a boogeyman, right? You can get rid of the obvious problem. And I don't mean to be flippant about somebody's assassination because, again, I don't like speaking death on people. But Haiti no longer has his president. President Moise was assassinated. Who takes his place? And the thing is, the person who takes his place may be worse than he was perceived to be. There needs to be an election that the people can believe in, and the United States cannot have its thumb on the scale. No other country can have its thumb on the scale.
One of the things that I was reading about this is that part of the problem is that the president of the Supreme Judicial Council died a few months ago, COVID-19. The prime minister died, I think, not too long ago. And so the interim or the acting prime minister is really not even duly elected to that role, right? Kind of got it by virtue of this. So now you basically have had in the last year 3 of the heads of government, right? The leader of the parliament, the leader of the country, and the leader of the Supreme Court that are now all out in months' time frame from each other. That actually is a recipe for destabilizing a country.
Yes, and the thing is, you have to ask, is that the intended purpose? Because, as I said, you know, Haiti's been putting up a fight from the very beginning, but after a certain point, at what point does it get to be too much? But I know my people, and I know me, and I think it comes to my bloodline, we don't stop fighting. We keep going and going and going. So if the aim is to destabilize Haiti, you got another thing coming, because Haitians are very proud. We believe in God, and we know how to fight. We don't have much, but we will fight for our independence.
So Stephanie,
and I think that's what Americans and other people do not understand. Yes, we are poor, and he looked down upon us, but we are a proud people as well.
Well, I mean, look, obviously, I mean, listen, I mean, from the days of the Haitian Revolution is something people still talk about. And I continue to believe that that is one of the reasons the Western Hemisphere continues to punish Haiti and refuse to give it resources because of that. And but what are you seeing going forward? I mean, because we're coming to the end of the show for us. What do you? I mean, will Haiti ever? My entire life, this has been the story that I remember. You know, it's kind of been continually embroiled in these kind of things. And I believe certainly with the help of Americans constantly interfering behind the scenes where you don't see the hand. But do you ever see a moment where Haiti is a different kind of story? And if so, how?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because if I didn't have hope, you know, I wouldn't be on the phone. I'd be saying it's a lost cause. But I feel as long as there's breath in our body, Haiti is not a lost cause. I do wish for the day that Haiti knows peace and prosperity that every other nation has. And I feel like it's up to the people. We need to have a government in place that has the resources in order to implement basic things like electricity, things like, you know, running water, stuff like that, education, put a focus on education, build people up. One of the things I don't like is that, you know, people often leave Haiti and they don't come back. They don't pour back into the nation. And people may say that, you know, it's not worth it, but we have to start investing more in Haiti. So like people like me, I know that I sent money back to my family. I want to be able to do that on a larger scale because I always say this, I am going to be a New York Times best-selling author. I am building my empire. I'm creating generational wealth. I am breaking generational curses. I do that for the purpose of not only for myself, but helping Haiti. Because I really, really do believe I see myself as one of the people in the future. I'm going to give back to Haiti. It may be starting with a small road, but that is my intended purpose. I want to be able to build a platform and help Haiti out. That is one of my, if I do nothing else during my days, that is something that I want to do. I want to be able to give back to Haiti because it's where it begins. It's where my mother had the idea I can live a better life. I'm going to America. And she did. And she had the crazy idea that she actually made it work. And that my grandmother said, I had no desire to go back to the white man's land, which made me laugh. But I really want to be able to help my people out because that's my bloodline. And for so many years when I was a kid, people wanted me to be ashamed of being Haitian. They were like, you know, Haitians are dirty. Haitians are the one that caused AIDS. But as soon as I got knowledge, as soon as I became more aware, Haitians were the ones that fought for their independence, the very first ones.
That's
right.
right.
We were the first republic. And so when I found that out, of course you wanted me to be ashamed because you don't want me to know who my ancestors are. But I do know who they are. I do know where my ancestry comes from. And I take my cues from them. We can fight in many ways. We can fight with our minds. We can fight with the resources. But we will fight. We will fight.
Well, Stephanie Gorillas, thank you from the Griot. We are praying that you become that award-winning and high-paid journalist and New York Times author that you should be and that you can see back into your native land. Thanks, Stephanie. And again, we're praying for Haiti, and we'll continue this conversation with you, all right?
Thank you very much, Pastor Tyler and Bishop Worcester. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Yeah. We should also say Stephanie is the author of the book called Control a Novel that's out. You can find it on Amazon. So we'll have to have you back on to talk about that sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the plug.
No
all right.
Bye.
Woo! Boy, that was fire today, man.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we need to, you know, a lot of times we don't talk about we spend so much time talking about American domestic politics and African-American domestic politics and challenges. We don't take a look at the larger diaspora. And there's a lot going on, both in Africa and in the Caribbean and other countries that are deeply related to us, deeply related to the transatlantic slave trade, right? We have lines back to all these places. And I think it's important that we also cover that international news that's happening in places like Haiti and Jamaica and Barbados and Dominica and in many countries and in Africa in general and the larger African diaspora, because those things have deep impact on us. And, you know, I mean, I have deep connections through my work at my church through Liberia and, you know, just the whole things and the challenges that are facing them right now, you know, just a lot to to work with and to talk about. They're coming up on their Independence Day, and they're dealing with the ravages of COVID with no vaccine over there right now. So, it's just a lot happening in the world that extends even beyond the shores of America for Black folk. And it's still, the colonial powers are still dictating a lot of what happens in these places, even though they're sovereign nations.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, everybody. Well, thank you.
Wow.
That's it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to bring you the latest news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. We thank you for listening to us today, whether you were on the air, you checked us out on the app, you checked us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. You checked us out via Alexa. Hey, Alexa, turn on WURD Radio. Thank you, Dr. Tyler, for everything that you do. Thank you, Koisa, for getting us on the air and making sure that we're here each and every day. Stay tuned now for Wake Up with WURD with Solomon Jones. And family, do us and yourselves, your children, your progeny, the kids on the block, a favor. Go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.